on Periscope. Just went live on Facebook. If anybody wants to follow me there, it's just DFL Jericho on Facebook. I'm just going to do a quick rundown of the slate. Shut up, Ryan. I see you on there. For those on Facebook that see me replying to people, that's off the Periscope feed. You can download Periscope and ask questions on there if you'd like. Eric, if you're in here, please share the link on Twitter so that I can get everybody in here. Rybread, why are you in here? Not getting good advice from your boys over there at Guru Elite. Gotta hop on my videos. I see you. Should just buy a subscription if you miss me that bad. I'm going to start with pitching. Pitching's really disgusting tonight. It's not really a slate that we're excited about when we look at pitching. Alex Wood is the top priced option, and to be honest, he doesn't make a whole lot of sense at all. I think his price point's way too high. The matchup's subpar. The Pirates are middle of the pack in strikeout rate against lefties, so I'm probably not going to pay $12,000 to get him on Draftkings. I haven't quite looked at Fanduel yet, but I would guess that he's overpriced over there as well. It looks like the industry is probably going to be on guys like Garrett Cole. I can see Garrett Cole being awfully high owned tonight. I personally think I'm going to go with the Fultonevich Skaggs combination. I know the Rangers have been hot. They're my team. I really like the Rangers, but I think this is a spot where you kind of have to play Skaggs at 6.7K. I have him projected almost as high as Fulte and almost as high as Alex Wood. And I think I have him projected higher than Garrett Cole. So Skaggs is my lock of the night on DraftKings where he's 6.7K. I think his strikeout potential against a team that really likes to strike out with guys like Napoli and Gallo, I think it's just too high to pass up on DraftKings. Cole is okay. I'm not a big Garrett Cole fan. He doesn't strike out enough for me. But if you want to take that leap, I won't hold it against you. I believe Rodon is on the early slate. I don't think he pitched. I think he pitches the first half of the doubleheader and not the second half. Correct me if I'm wrong. He would be the top value against Minnesota, but he's not on the slate, I believe. So he probably won't make any of the main slates or any of the ones that are worth playing. It's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot of options at pitcher tonight. I think you could look at a guy like Wade Miley or Chris Stratton if you really want to reach. But I'd probably stick to guys like Skaggs and Fulte and Cole tonight in the mid to upper mid tier. Moving on to catcher. Give me just 1 second here. I saw Grandal make a lot of my optimals on DraftKings, and I'm going to take a look at FanDuel here in a minute. Catcher always comes down to whether you want to punt or whether you want to pay up. My guess is we're going to have plenty of salary to pay up on both sides tonight with the value pitching. But if you are paying down, I think you probably look at a guy like Bruce Maxwell if he's in the lineup against Wade Miley. He's one of my top values at the position. If you're going to pay up, I think it's Grandal. He gets a matchup with Cole. The ballpark's not great, but his price is rather affordable. So I'm completely fine with Grandal at catcher. What's going on here? Yeah, I think I got it, Eric. I'm about to hop over there and share it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them throughout the segment. I'll get to them in between. There's one early game, Travis. There's a doubleheader for Chicago and Minnesota today. So there is an early slate if you really want to hop in on it. It looks like a mess to me. It's probably not something that I'm going to touch. What's up, Robinson? Welcome. Yeah, Grandal and Posey, probably my top two catcher options if you're going to pay up. You can't go wrong with a guy like Pena or Zunino, but I think Grandal and Posey are going to be the two guys on Draftkings. Once I go through Draftkings, I'll go back and kind of look at Fanduel. I only uploaded the Draftkings projections because most of my subscription base plays on Draftkings. A lot of guys from Texas. If we move on to first base, Goldschmidt is the guy against Giselman. I call him Jizzman because he's fucking horrible. I really like Goldie. The matchup's incredible. The ballpark's neutral. Even though he's 5.6K on DraftKings, you can easily afford him, and I'm not really worried about pricing when it comes to hitters tonight. Pretty much going to be able to play whoever you want with Skaggs and Fulte at pitcher. So, yeah, I'd probably go with Goldie. If you're looking for a value option on DraftKings, give me just 1 second here. Look at my top per dollar player tonight. Yeah, I guess Ryder Jones, if he's in the lineup. A lot of this is going to depend on lineup spots. I don't like to talk about value plays until later. For those that don't know, I'm going to run a live show at 5:30 Eastern every single day. Catch most of you guys when you're going home from work. You can hook it into your car on your aux cord or play it through your Bluetooth. And I'll kind of go over, the value plays that present themselves as we get up to locks, weather issues, things of that nature. But it's tough to really pinpoint value plays this early in the day. So I'm probably just going to stick to the top options at each position and kind of go from there. At first base, it's Goldschmidt far and away. I think Edwin has a nice matchup against Erod, and Abreu has been red hot against G. But again, it's a doubleheader, so we don't know if he's going to be in the lineup or not. Moving on to second base, Dozier. He's the top option. It's not even really close. You can make a case for Asdrubal, a.k.a. Asdrubal, where he makes sense. I believe he has second base eligibility now on DraftKings. I don't remember ever seeing that for him, but it is there now from what I'm looking at. And he's probably the best value play that we have at the position right now. But again, you're going to have plenty of money. I think it makes sense to just pay up for Dozier. There's certain guys that you're just going to want to build your lineup around tonight. I think Dozier and Goldschmidt are two of them. And the guy I'm about to get to at third base, Manny Machado, it is basically a lock tonight. I know his price is extremely high. It might feel like point chasing coming off of the triple dome game with the walk-off grand slam. But he's rating extremely well, and I'm going to feel pretty confident plugging in Machado. And then obviously Mike Trout, who screwed me and got a big fat 0 yesterday. We just don't see those kind of days from him very often, so I'm sure he'll bounce back and have a good game here. Move on to third base, where I was talking about Machado. I think it's Machado, and then you're looking at Nunez or Lamb. Lamb has the platoon. He's probably going to get a good lineup spot against Jizzman. I think that's a really good matchup to exploit. For some reason, my model's not very high on Lamb, regardless of the spot that he's in, unless he's in Chase Field, which makes sense. I think he does most of his damage there. Freeman is just ice cold. You can try to take that risk, but it's a lefty-lefty matchup. I think he's a good tournament pivot because everybody's going to be off of him. I think you could probably get Freeman under 5% owned in a tournament tonight. If we're looking at values, Chapman, depending on his lineup spot, he's got the platoon against Miley. If you get him in like a 5 or 6 spot in the lineup, I think that's huge. I think you could take Seager if you want against Fulte at third base. I think that's a solid matchup. I'll move on to shortstop real quick. Asdrubal's the top value. Here, guys, give me 1 second. What's up?
I want cereal.
You want cereal? You want to say hi to everybody? Say hi. I'll get you cereal in a minute, okay? All right? Give me like 5 minutes. It's my 4-year-old, Haley. She's staying home from school today. Let's see. Shortstop. Corey Seager is the top option. I've seen guys like Beckham and Lindor. Bro, she's had so much to eat this morning. I've never seen a kid eat so much food. She's already had like a thing of granola, like squares. She's had yogurt. She's had strawberry. It's amazing how much she eats. She's going through a huge growth spurt right now. Lindor, Beckham, Segura, Simeon, all these guys at the top. You're going to be able to afford pretty much whoever you want. At shortstop position, I'm seeing a lot of Asdrubal and Lindor, mostly Asdrubal. It looks like a position where I'm going to pay down tonight so I can fit the Machados and the Trouts and the Kutches, Goldschmidt, Dozier. Shortstop's usually a great position to punt because you're not going to get a whole lot of bang for your buck. Even Seager's having a down year. Lindor's kind of hit or miss. So I like, getting Asdrubal for $3,000 on Draftkings. I think that's a steal. And unless more value opens up, that's probably the direction that I'm going to go. I'll get to stacks at the end. Robinson, I always mention my favorite tournament stacks. I'll kind of go through, my thought process when I look at those. I really like Milwaukee against Stratton. They're coming off of Coors matchups, so I think their ownership's going to be down. I don't think people are going to pay much attention to them. And I think that's a great place to target. I'm going to take a look at the outfield real quick. There's two guys that I already mentioned, Mike Trout being number one. I think you just lock in Trout and move on tonight with how thin the pitching position is. Chances are we're going to go with values. I wouldn't fade Trout. He's going to be 50 to 60% owned in cash games. I think in tournaments it's a nice pivot. Hamels, he does have the ability to get great hitters out. So if you want to fade for, a guy like Mookie Betts or Chris Taylor, Crush Davis, I think those are great pivots in tournaments. But in cash games, I think you should lock in Trout and just kind of move on. Looking at my optimals in the outfield position, I'm seeing a lot of Chris Taylor, a lot of Benintendi, a lot of Kutch, Andrew McCutcheon. For those of you, I have to forget to use nicknames and lingo. I know a lot of you guys are new to daily fantasy. But those are the top guys: Betts, Trout, Chris Davis, Benintendi, and some of this is going to depend on lineup spots. But Kutch and Trout are pretty much locked into their lineup spot, and as long as Chris Taylor leads off, he's going to be a great value as well. That pretty much wraps up DraftKings. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them right now. I'm going to pull up my stack spreadsheet and kind of look at that so I can give you guys an idea of some of my favorite tournament stacks. I don't know why we're talking about the Browns. I don't know where that came from. That's a football team. This is a baseball breakdown to whoever's talking about the Browns. It looks like the Orioles have the highest implied run total so far. I'm pulling up my live Vegas spreadsheet so I can kind of take a look at which way the lines are moving. For those of you that don't know, no, you can't get a follow back, Marcia. One, I don't know who you are, and two, I don't want to follow you. If you're looking at stacks, the most important thing is to look at ownership. There's a few websites that have projected ownership on them, Fantasy Labs and Roto Grinders being two of them. I'm not a big fan of projecting ownership because you can be wrong fairly often. But if you look at Vegas implied run totals, just kind of Google it, MLB implied run totals, you can find a sheet that'll show you what each team is projected to score that night. Right now, you've got the Orioles projecting at 6 runs. Personally, the Orioles, they can disappoint fairly often, so I would like to fade or not play the Orioles tonight in tournaments. I think they're going to be one of the highest owned teams. I think you can almost, guarantee that Machado and Trout are going to be two of the highest owned players tonight, even in tournaments. What I like to do is if there's an ace like Alex Wood on the mound and he's not projecting well, I like to plug in Alex Wood in, maybe 30 to 40% of my lineups and get exposure to that top guy that's going to be low owned. Even at 12K, Alex Wood has 35 to 40 point upside, regardless of the matchup. So I don't think it's a horrible time to kind of plug him in at 12K and differentiate your lineup builds from everyone else. I would probably stick to teams like the White Sox. I really like a White Sox stack tonight. I think the Dodgers are a really good stack that's going to be low owned. If I had to pick one team to target, I think it would probably be the White Sox. I think the White Sox are going to have incredibly low ownership. There's a bunch of no names on their team, and guys like Delmonico and Abreu are on absolute fire. So I would probably look to target the White Sox tonight in tournaments. I think the Red Sox will be low owned. Interesting, not really a fact, but just a something that I've noticed about the Red Sox. When nobody's on the Red Sox tend to go off. I don't expect them to have very high ownership tonight. I think it'll be somewhat lower than a lot of the higher teams. And Benintendi, Nunez, Betts, all these guys, have 40-point upside, and they flash it on occasion. If you catch the Red Sox on a good night, they're one of the better stacks to have. Somebody mentioned the Brewers earlier. The Brewers opened up at a 4.1 run team total. It's gone up to 4.5. That tells me that their ownership is going to be a little more inflated than I originally thought. I think you can mix in some Brewers for sure. They're not going to be chalky or high owned by any stretch. But I would stick to teams like the Red Sox or the Dodgers or the White Sox. I'm gonna put those three as my top stacks tonight. I think the Orioles will be the highest owned. I think the Twins will be relatively high owned, even though their run total is plummeting. Right now it's at 5.3. It opened at 5.6 runs. I'd say if that Twins team total gets down to about 5.1, then you could stack them and feel comfortable with getting lower ownership. But if you do stack the Twins, I would avoid Dozier. He's going to be very high owned tonight in all formats. So that's pretty much it. I'll open the floor for questions if you guys have any. I'm going to post this to YouTube when I get done, and it'll be on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/DFL Jericho, Jerico. And I'll post it on YouTube as well and share it on Twitter so you guys can watch it. Yeah, the Red Sox, again, they disappoint when they're supposed to do well, and they do well when they're supposed to disappoint. This looks like a spot where they're probably supposed to disappoint, according to the public, which means they'll probably go off. They're a great tournament team because people get really frustrated with stacking them, and their ownership will be driven down tonight. But if you guys have any other questions, feel free to shoot. I'll stay on for another 2 or 3 minutes if I need to. If not, I'll hop off. And yeah, you can rewatch it on Periscope. You can rewatch it on Facebook, and I'm going to post it on YouTube. Be sure to share. If you have any friends that play daily fantasy sports, let them know. Twitter banned my main account, so I'm trying to build my presence back up. I got banned for calling Draftkings out for their bullshit, basically, for those that don't know the full story. But yeah, watch on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, and I'll be on later, 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'll be on for another 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Then I'll be talking value plays, weather, pretty much everything you need to know going into locks so you can build a good lineup. For those that don't know, the website is dailyfantasylines.com. And I'm also promoting Fantasydraft. If anybody's looking for an alternative site to play, aside from Draftkings and Fanduel, just shoot me a message and I'll get you a link to Fantasydraft. Me and my subscribers have had a lot of success over there. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Robinson, good to have you. See y'all later.